Hi, kindergarten, first and second grade leaders. We're preparing for March 1st in our new series called It's All About Jesus. We'll be finishing up the prophets. Actually, we don't have prophets for a couple weeks. We're going to be looking at Esther and Nehemiah. And then we'll look at the very last prophet, Malachi, who helps direct us to Jesus and Jesus's birth. And so let's dive into Esther today. Our story of Esther has been one of my favorite stories for as long as I can remember, probably because it's about a queen, and what little girl doesn't want to be queen one day? But I think more than that, especially as I've grown up, what I have appreciated about this story the most is the statement that for such a time as this, Esther, you were prepared for such a time as this, that God put you in the right place at the right time with the right people, with the right everything, so that he could use you. And what an amazing picture that is. First off, that a woman who is a Jew would be chosen by a Persian king to help lead her people out of Persia. That's crazy. That's not normal. That's not normal in that world now, even in that country, that women are not valued to that degree. So, just that part by itself, but also that God, in his wisdom, amazing wisdom, knew that she was the one that he needed at that time. And we've seen that all the way through the Bible as we've looked at all the Old Testament stories, how God used people just like you and me to help continue his story throughout time, to help direct us to Jesus. And the story is not any different. So as we are beginning to look at spring a little bit, I know spring's not here yet, but we will begin to imagine that spring is here. Probably why I'm wearing this hoodie today, because it got cold again. But your social activity, you're going to get to play bingo with the kids. And so it's just a normal bingo game. You have bingo cards, you have, and there should be enough in that stack that not anybody has the same bingo card. You have calling cards, and you also have bingo markers that look like little bunnies, and so kids can grab a handful of those to fill in their bingo. And it's really just a way for you to connect with a group of kids. We're not going to have prizes for a little while. Let's just try to build relationships with kids. We have a huge group of new kiddos. Since January, we have added 120 to 140 new kids. And so that means all of our groups feel very different every week. And so let's use this time as a way to get to know our kids, to spend time with them. When at all possible, try to get there early so that you aren't walking into a whole table full of kids already. They need to walk in and see you first, so that they can begin to make that connection. And then during your small group time today, you have some people already cut out, and popsicle sticks and some glue sticks and tape. So kids are going to make their own puppets. And there's a whole set of the whole story for each kid. I think there's 4 puppets per kid that they will make. So obviously that's Esther. And there's Haman. That's got to be Haman because he looks mean and grumpy. There's Mordecai, and there is the king, King Xerxes. And so what you will do after you make your puppets is allow the kids to do a puppet show together and to tell this story. And then as you're telling this story, this is a great time to kind of interject your discussion questions. I want you to be cautious when you are asking those discussion questions, because many of our kids, You heard we have 140 new kids. Many of our kids don't have any background to understand any of this. Most of them, today is the very first time they've heard any of these stories. And so don't use your discussion questions as a quiz to make sure that they get right answers. Use it as a way to help them begin to see the story in a different way. So, I mean, if you wanted to, and it's a group of kids that you know real regularly, you're welcome to reward them for giving right answers. But it's more important that they get a bigger picture that God is using people just like Esther to point people to Jesus. And because he can do that with Esther, he can do that with us as well. And so that's what you really want for kids to get out of your time together, more than all the right answers about who did what and when, okay? All right, and then your memory verse, it should be a fun one. You have and the kids should be used to doing something similar to this at school. It's kind of a way that they learn their sight words. So you have a fly swatter, and you have a couple of them actually in your bucket. So if you wanted to make 2 teams and let kids do it by teams, they can do that. So what you're going to do is lay out the cards to the memory verse out on the floor and let kids take turns with the fly swatter hitting the words in order as they are beginning to try to read all the words as well. Again, this should be kind of a familiar activity for them, because this is the way a lot of teachers are using to teach kids sight words. And so as you are learning your memory verse, you can focus on kind of the question here in your leader guide. Have you ever gone through something really difficult you weren't sure if you would ever get through it? Our memory verse reminds us that God will restore us and strengthen us. God knows that we are weak, but our weaknesses point us back to our need for Jesus. And I know in my life that has definitely been true. In the lives of my family, that's been true. When we needed God the most was when we realized he was there taking care of us the entire time. And so what a great way to look at this memory verse and help direct kids towards that. I want to remind you guys that we have something called the code. And the code is kind of our rules for how we engage in relationship at Parkway Church. Our number 1 rule that we're going to emphasize in the next couple weeks is respect everyone, everywhere. And that can look like a lot of different things. That could mean one conversation at a time, so that we get the chance of listening to someone else. Just as every single person in that circle wants to be heard, we need to give time to listen as well. And so encourage them to take turns listening to each other. Respect can also be noticing if someone needs something or needs some help with something, or being helpful. And so help define for your kids as you're beginning to help teach them this code. And I'm going to help you do that as well as we do our large group teaching. Help them define what respect looks like. I know they've heard this word in a lot of different settings, but as Christians, we have a completely different picture of what respect looks like because of God's great love for us. And so we can respect something even if honestly, even if we can respect people and respect everything going on around us, which may mean that at times when you don't want to be quiet, you need to be quiet so that everybody else gets a chance to participate as well. I'd love to hear how you guys are using this word respect in your small group and beginning to help your kids know how to function in a group setting. Thank you so much for leading. Come join us for our huddle this week. Pastor Mike is going to be there teaching and giving everyone the opportunity to use this as a way to attend Next Steps gathering. If you haven't ever had the chance to do that, this is This will take the place of that for you, as well as help you figure out how to direct kids towards figuring out what their next step is. Thank you so much for leading. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.